This video is brought to you by Battlezoo Eldamon, coming soon to Kickstarter. This expansion to Pathfinder 2nd Edition and D&D 5e is a Pokemon-style rule set that includes two new classes, Eldamon Trainer and Elemental Avatar. Join the Kickstarter campaign for Battlezoo Eldamon today. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you, and today we're going to be addressing a number of different questions that I've received over the last couple months, all about the Haste spell and the Quickened condition. So before we get into the specific questions, let's do a quick review of what this spell is and how it works. The Haste spell takes 2 actions to cast, and it has a duration of 1 minute, and the description says, magic empowers the target to act faster, it gains the Quickened condition, and can use the extra action each round only for strike and stride actions. So that's what the Haste spell says, but we also should take a look at the text for Quickened because that's what's applied by the Haste spell. And Quickened says, you gain 1 additional action at the start of your turn each round. Many effects that make you quicken specify the types of actions you can use with this additional action. If you become quickened from multiple sources, you can use the extra action you've been granted for any single action allowed by any of the effects that made you quickened. Because Quicken has its effect at the start of your turn, you do not immediately gain actions if you become quickened during your turn. So that last sentence in the Quickened description actually answers, to a large degree, the first question that I was asked about Haste, which is, if I cast Haste on myself, can I then cast a second spell that turn? And I'm going to make the assumption here that this person is considering the whatever the second spell might be to be a 2-action spell. So they're saying, I normally have 3 actions. If I spend the first 2 of those on casting Haste, I then get an extra additional action, and that leaves me with 2 actions left that I can spend that I would then spend to cast another spell. And no, that's not going to work. First of all, because that last sentence, and actually the first sentence of the description for Quickened, make it clear that you get your actions at the start of your turn. So if you cast it on yourself on this turn, you're not going to get any benefit from that action until the start of your next turn, because that's when you receive your actions. And the other reason why that's not going to work is because the extra action you receive from Haste cannot be spent on anything. It specifically says that it has to be the stride or strike actions, and casting a spell is not going to be either of those things. So no, if you cast a Haste on yourself, that does not give you the ability to have 2 extra actions that round to cast a second spell that turn. And the second question about Haste is, do I have to use my last action on every turn that I'm quickened from Haste on stride or strike? So what this person's basically saying is, because I get an extra or additional action from being quickened, that action has to be spent after I spend my 3 normal actions. So I normally get 3 actions, I spend all 3 of those, and then I get an additional action after those 3 have been spent, and that action for Haste has to be a stride or a strike. Therefore, I can, whatever my last action is on a turn, has to be a stride or a strike. And I've seen some people argue this both ways online. It largely comes down to what your definition of the word additional is for this additional action. My belief, and I believe this is the way it is intended, is that actions are like currency. It's like a dollar bill. You have $3 bills, and you can spend those to pay for 3 actions during your turn. Quicken gives you another dollar bill, so now I've got $4 in my hand, but that extra dollar bill can only be spent on stride or strike. Now, the order in which I spend those on my turn is completely up to me. So it's my belief that no, you're not limited to the very last action you do on that turn has to be a stride or strike. It just, any one action during that turn can be used by spending the Quicken Hasted dollar for a stride or a strike. So as long as you do a stride or a strike anywhere during your turn, you should be okay. You don't have to literally wait to the very end just because the text says it's an additional action it doesn't have to be spent at the end. Again, that's my belief. I think that that's the way that it's intended. Others may disagree, and that's okay too. So the next question about haste is the extra strike affected by multiple attack penalty? And yes, there's nothing about the haste spell or the quicken condition that removes multiple attack penalty. So if you attack 4 times in a round, make 4 strikes, then yes, that last one is going to be at the -10 or -8 multiple attack penalty. But most of the time, at least I think when people are using that extra action wisely, it's not necessarily to get you a 4th attack. It's to move you in position. It's to let you raise a shield after you've made your attacks. It's to do other things. But again, because you don't have to, in my opinion, wait until the very end to do that strike or that stride, you can be a little more creative in the way you use them. And the next question is, what happens if you become slowed while you are hasted or have the quicken condition from another effect? And this is spelled out on page 462 in an area that says gaining and losing actions. It says, whenever you lose a number of actions, whether from these conditions or in any other way, you choose which to lose if there's any difference between them. For instance, the haste spell makes you quicken, but it limits what you can use your extra action to do. If you lost an action while haste was active, which would be the case of having the slowed condition applied to you while you're hasted, you might want to lose the action from haste first, since it's more limited than your normal actions. So there you go. If you're thinking of this in case of the currency example, you've got the 3 regular dollar bills you can spend, and you have a special extra dollar bill that can only be spent on stride or strike. If you become slowed, you can choose any of those $4 bills you want to give up. But it makes most sense you're going to give up the one that has restrictions placed on it, so that you can use the other 3 freely. You don't have to give up one of your regular actions. You have the freedom to choose if you want to give up one of your regular actions or your hasted action if you become slowed while hasted. And the last question is, can you use the action from haste for Snagging Strike? Snagging Strike is a 1st level fighter feat. It's 1 action, and well, the answer is going to be no. And people say, well, wait a second, I'm allowed to use that extra action on a strike, and this is a snagging strike. It's a type of strike. But no, it's pretty clear that when they're talking about you can use that action for strike, they're talking about the strike basic action. The strike basic action is a subordinate action of a snagging strike, but snagging strike is still a separate thing from a strike. So no, you would not be able to use that extra action for a snagging strike. It would have to be a regular basic action type strike. So there you have it, a number of different questions about haste covered in this one video. If you have any questions about any of this, please let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future rule reminders, please let me know in the comments as well. And as always, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that's by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon, sharing the videos with your friends, leaving suggestions for other rule reminders. I greatly appreciate everything the community does to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.